City of Stevens Point Downtown Business Improvement District Board Meeting, recorded January 2nd, 2024.
Well, we are at 2:30, so we're going to get this meeting going. Rosalind, can you do roll for us, please?
Tara Mansky.
Tara, you are online. Do you want to let us know that you are present?
Hannah Cutler.
Here.
Mike Beacom.
Here.
Bob Butt.
Here.
Brian Cummins.
Here.
Rosalind Collier. Here. Alderperson Christensen.
Here.
All right, you're going to come with.
Okay.
February.
Tara, I see you unmuted. Are you present?
I am here.
No, next one.
Thank you.
Next one. Okay, item number 2, comments from the public on agenda and non-agenda items.
All right, we are joined by Troy Panansky in here and Alder Shuda and Christine. Any comments from the public?
Happy New Year's. I hope it's a good year. Hope the bid board works hard for the downtown taxpayers. I just got my tax bill like all the owners did. And I'm just shy of $500 for my property. So I just hope this bid board does a good job and it did it for its intended purpose. And we're looking forward to a strong new year. And hope that the spa board and the bid board work well hand in hand together. I have some ideas or thoughts of conflict of interest actually with board members being on both boards, but that's to be discussed later, I believe, here in the other spa management meeting as well, or for the bylaws. So let's make sure that conflict of interests are truly understood of like what could be conflict of interest, even though we're all here for the same purpose, for a good, strong downtown. It can be, the votes can be swayed on either way if there's too many people that are on both boards. So that's another conversation for the, as a member of the spa, I'll be addressing with our spa local members. So, but have a good year and stay focused, and for the intended purpose that the funds were put together to make this table a strong voice for our downtown, not an extension of the city's voice. Okay, that's all I gotta say.
Any other comments from the public? One more time, any comments from the public? Okay, we'll move on to item number 3, election of officers for 2024.
All right, so per your bylaws for this group, we do host elections annually for your officer positions. We did amend the bylaws this last year to include that vice chair position in the event that the chair is not able to be present, or we happen to lose a chair in the middle of the year. So this process is fairly simple. We'll ask for nominations for each of those positions. We ask for those nominations 3 times. And then if there are multiple nominations for each position, then we'll cast votes. Would you like to start us off, sir?
Okay, so the first officer position is for chairperson.
I nominate Mike Beacom.
Nomination from Hannah. Anybody else? Any nominations? Any other nominations?
Well, you can also choose to accept or decline the nomination.
I'll continue if there's anybody else interested, I'm certainly open to their interest.
Mike, you've done a great job.
Mm-hmm.
You've asked for nominations 3 times. If there are no other nominations, then Chair Beacom, your term continues.
Good,
Congratulations.
thank you. Vice chairperson. Open nominations.
I nominate myself for vice chair.
Very good. Vice chair, any other nominations?
I'm sorry, who was that?
Brian.
Brian Cummins.
Thank you.
And a third time, any other nominations for vice chair? I assume nominating yourself is good?
I'll accept that.
Okay. So Brian will be the vice chair. Treasurer. I was treasurer. We need somebody new in that role. Do we have nominations for treasurer? We have volunteers for treasurer.
You can leave the position vacant, but I highly recommend against it.
We're gonna need somebody in that role because it'll be key, especially with the foundation piece.
It's much more important going forward because we will now be able to start utilizing those funds. So
It is not in your best interest for me to be a treasurer.
Duly noted.
Bob, Tara, either one of you interested in taking that on? Tara, is that something that you would explore?
I would need to know what goes into that. It is not a position I've ever held.
So
So I would just need to know that there would be support in place to understand that better.
I think what I can offer is the city controller and clerk probably assist. The treasurer is gonna meet regularly with the chair and also with the president of SPA and their treasurer when it comes to foundation matters. I don't think you're keeping books, but I think you're keeping an eye on the books to make sure that everything looks up to snuff and prepared to offer an update at these meetings. We don't have a ton of finances that are gonna shuffle around, and obviously working closely with our downtown manager too.
Correct, yeah. The position, Chair Beacom summarized really accurately. We don't have a lot of financial history for you to work from, but you will be essentially monitoring that the finances that are being collected are being spent appropriately. So that will take some time to review with the chair what those expenses may have been over the course of the year. You know, I'm a staff person that has access to budget, so we will on a little bit of not just oversight, but also conversation between the chair, the treasurer, and that staff person.
I would nominate Tara Mansky for the position of treasurer.
Okay, so we have a nomination. Tara, will you accept that nomination?
Boy,
I can help out as much as you need me to help out too.
I just want to make sure that, like I said, I'm understanding it, that it's not, I want to do something and do it a good job, but I don't know how to do this. So
You have support through it. I wouldn't expect more than, 2 hours a month of additional labor, just reviewing finances.
okay. I mean, do I need to know am I doing work in QuickBooks?
No.
Okay. Then yeah, I can accept.
Excellent.
Fantastic. Okay,
Ask for any other nominations.
Two more other nominations.
what's that?
2 more other nominations.
For treasurer.
Any other nominations for treasurer or any other nominations? Okay. And then for secretary, open up for nominations.
I think our present secretary's doing an outstanding job. I would nominate Rosalind.
Nomination for Rosalind. Any other nominations for secretary?
Rosalind, do you accept that nomination?
I accept.
And a final call, any other nominations for secretary? Okay, I believe we're covered. Thank you.
All right. Thank you all. We now have a new slate of officers. Welcome to 2024.
Okay, moving on to item number 4. This is a good review, probably something we'll do every January. Just some procedural reminders. In terms of the agenda, what we've been doing is the chair meets with staff and secretary on a monthly basis to set an agenda. We'll continue with that. quorum, obviously we need a majority of us, so we need 4 people present. That can include people that are virtual with us. That's not been an issue before. I will say, so for myself, I travel about once a month. I hate being on Zoom calls, but if I'm able to be, I will be. But even when I am, I may have Brian run the meeting. Being here in person, it's a lot easier to have it conducted by somebody that is here in person. And I probably will know well in advance which weeks I'm gonna miss. We have these meetings on the first Tuesday of the month, 2:30 to 4:30. So we can probably lock in a calendar invite as far as just one for the year, if you wanna handle that. And then just set that up so we all have that in our calendars. And then if for some reason we need to move it due to a holiday, due to some other meeting or something, we can do that on a month-to-month basis. But maybe let's do that before the next one so we can lock in February through December. In your packet, Chris has included on page 3, a list of contact information. So if you go to the website, and this I think is gonna be updated off of what we have now. If your email is listed as your contact on the website, that now is subject to open records. So Bob, you might be a good example. If somebody pulls an open records, they're gonna look at that email of yours. If you wanna set up another one, you can. I did, some people do, some people don't. Just
public.
Yeah.
It's a public one for me.
Okay, so whatever you have listed for your contact, that's going to be your official for this. Any other questions, concerns there? What else do we have as far as background information?
That was essentially it. So that's, we update that contact information annually, but if you change your email or phone number in the middle of the year and you want that information updated, just notify the new downtown manager and we'll make sure that the clerk updates that online.
Your term is listed on this sheet that's been prepared. And so obviously these appointments are made by the mayor. I would say, I think that there's a term end, but these can be reappointed like other committees and commissions based on the mayor's, who's ever holding that position.
Yeah, we haven't discussed when the notice will go out for reappointments or new applications for the downtown, but those are always rolling, so anyone can apply to be on this board of directors. If you would like to renew your term, highly encourage you to reapply or at least notify Mayor Lisa ahead of time that you intend to stay with this board or would like to.
So another bullet, and this was brought up earlier in the meeting, is just, we have some overlap in terms of officers for bid and SPA. Probably not, this would have been, this slate would have been chosen last year ahead of SPA's election. So they're not held at the same time, but we can have as a board some open discussion on what we see as conflict. We need some linkage, but is there an issue of conflict in terms of having people serve in both roles? And so I'm opening that up to this group for any discussion.
Who do we have? I mean, you and Tara, and you're not an officer, but Tara is, or you are?
Tara, are you an officer?
I am right now, just through this month, then my term is up with the SPA board, but I'm currently the vice president.
And she was not an officer most recently, correct?
No, she was.
I was not an officer. I was on the board, but I was not an officer. I moved into the officer role when there was a resignation.
Right, but I meant for the bid board, you're now an officer for us, but technically.
Oh, correct.
Yeah.
And I volunteered on the SPA board when the shift, actually like 2 months ago. So I don't know if I'm voted to continue or if I just continue.
And the other thing that relates to this, just so we know, is that obviously we can't violate quorum. So that limits the amount of people on this board that can attend SPA meetings. I know.
So to back up there, you can hold quorum. You would just need to
announce it, right?
Yes.
And so on a monthly basis, I think that if there was a special reason, if the two boards were meeting and whatnot, but I think we've avoided that this last year by just saying, if Mark is always gonna go, Tara's gonna go, or Hannah goes, then the rest of us understand, or however that breaks down with Rosalind, the rest of us understand that, you know, we're not gonna attend those just so we don't violate.
And I think that was also an intentional decision on your part, if I recall correctly, your part as a board, so as to not overburden the Stevens Point Alliance with,
I don't plan on
so.
going to those. you know,
So
I
because
feel
I'm
like
on the
getting
board
much-
right now, can I fill a position on the board of the SPA according, does the bid allow that?
That's up for discussion. I think that's
Yeah.
what-
There's nothing in our bylaws, my understanding is, obviously this is new, probably nothing in SBA's bylaws. But we're discussing it because it is brand new.
Well, and because our meetings are open forum and we take decisions and votes and those sorts of things, if there is something that's even like on the edge of conflict of interest, then just to be very public about announcing that before a vote and either abstain or state why it's not a conflict of interest. But so it's in the public record, I think that, hey, I'm secretary of both organizations and this is why I'm recusing or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah, and obviously, we don't have any control. They have a meeting on January 10th to look at their bylaws and an election a little over a week after that. So SPA may change their operational, you know, we have our elections, we're always gonna vote probably before they do. So I'm comfortable personally with what Ryan suggested, which is, you know, like any other committee, if you have a conflict, you would recuse yourself. And if other people feel you have a conflict, then they can bring it to your attention for a discussion. Did you have a point?
Yeah, does it violate quorum if I go to the like SB meetings?
No.
Okay.
No, I mean, it's probably good if you're,
Right. That's what I was.
I would think, yeah, cause
Yeah.
you're gonna be able to.
Right.
yes.
Okay.
so you're good. And same for city staff,
Mhm.
not same for Christensen.
So,
Nothing's the same for him.
Any other discussion or for, you know, for Chloe's sake, for Bob's sake, we're Robert's rules, anything else, you know, as far as just giving folks reminders, things to be aware of?
so I have no updates on or reminders on that, other than if you have questions about Robert's Rules of Order, what walk-in quorum is and trying to avoid that. Attorney Beverage's contact information is on that sheet. He's always open to meeting with our committees, commissions, board members. Bob, you were the only one in this room that wasn't a part of the first meeting. So if you do have any questions about those policies and procedures, you can talk to me afterwards and we can talk to Logan.
There was a little pamphlet that Mayor Weeza handed to all of us. I don't know whether you got a copy of that.
Logan should have one.
Yeah.
We can find that one for you.
Okay, let's move on to item number 5, which is our downtown manager report. We're not expecting a report, but just an opportunity to say hello. This is your first day and
Yeah.
how that's going and any thoughts you have and.
Well, hello, everyone. Super excited. It's my first day, so it's been a lot of orientations, a lot of papers, a lot of reading, and I'm going to that. I've just already started a list. I know we've met already to talk about like starting a list of the things I'd like to see and just archiving it a little bit until I figure out this role entirely and get to meet with the business owners. And I'm really excited. So thank you again for this opportunity. And I look forward to meeting all of you individually as these weeks go on. So.
I think we're all very excited too. And I think number 1 is gonna be, after you get your feet set, just becoming a face everybody recognizes downtown with that community. So, very good. Anybody have anything for Chloe? Okay, so moving forward in future months, this would be an opportunity just to, things you're seeing, ideas you have. Very similar to the city staff report, which is what we've been relying on. Those two will probably complement each other. City staff will offer things from things they're working on. You'll eventually take over the WDC contacts and some of those opportunities, and it'll be very helpful. 6, city staff report. Chris, what do you got for us?
Yep, so since our last meeting, I've been in contact with Aaron Walter, your point of contact with the WEC Main Street program, and Jesus Nanez. We have 4 restaurant owners who have met with Jesus Nanez to receive some very targeted consulting, consultant experience with them. They should be coordinating an on-site visit in the coming weeks. Have forwarded additional contact information to additional restaurant owners, just to make sure that his time is well spent and the restaurants in our downtown can benefit from his time. As a reminder, the Main Street program does also include Joe Lonacek, who is a design architectural expert who provides facade design assistance. And we, after we had sent that information out to the downtown contact list that we had put together, we did have 6 intrigued either business owners or property owners who had reached out, and he has at least been in contact with 2 of them. So he is starting to work on drafting some designs with some downtown property owners.
So, quick point on that, because of the response that I was CC'd on. You know, I agree with him. You got 3 facades from 1, so, you know, moving forward, can we, and it's probably gonna be more Chloe, but just kind of managing the expectation from the person who gets access to the resource of.
Yeah, well, it's a
I'm sorry, there
communications.
was one,
One person gave 3 facades. And so the idea is that we want to spread the wealth. He may have an
Right,
opportunity to come
absolutely.
back and give number 2 and number 3, but we want to make sure as many people as possible that want to take advantage of that,
Sure.
get that opportunity before we start feeding somebody a second or a third. For sure.
And that communication wasn't necessarily given to us about what their program limitations or expectations are, so it was reasonable for them to ask what's available.
We can always ask.
Yeah.
Exactly.
We have comment at the beginning of the meeting.
Oh, I just had a question.
Yeah,
Okay.
sorry about that.
So that will continue to send reminders about that program. I think Chloe will be the point of contact for that going forward. Last meeting, we did share some information about the joint Shopco meeting that's taking place next week. I don't believe Director Krenosky has confirmed the location for that meeting next Wednesday evening, but that is the joint meeting between the public, commissioners of all sorts, common council.
Is it 6 o'clock on the 10th?
Should be at 6 p.m. on Wednesday, January 10th. So once that is the location is officially selected, we'll make sure to forward that invitation to you all, so you can receive it. I will notice it for quorum. We are past the holidays, so I will be requesting an update from Director Budune and Mayor regarding the lighting that was requested. I have no updates regarding the downtown conference center that was updated last month. I think that's all I've got for you all.
And as far as, do you want to talk a little bit about transition? You and Chloe were able to connect today for her onboarding, and then for these next few months, you're gonna kind of just give her a download of things you've done this past year.
Yep.
So you can take that on. Okay.
Well, that essentially summarizes it. Over the next few weeks, Director Krenosky and I will be meeting with Chloe to make sure she understands all of the administrative responsibilities as well as the content that's been building up behind the operating plan, which if you all need copies of that operating plan, I still have 2 of them here. And then Chloe will start taking responsibility for these meetings. Director Krenosky or myself will continue to be here for
one or the other.
Yeah, for updates on other city projects. But we expect that transition to happen over the next few months.
So next month.
So for our next
Next month's
agenda
is
meeting, we'll definitely have Chloe there, whether Chris wants to weigh in on that.
Okay.
And kind of leave it up to city staff.
Well, also remember that next month's meeting is
Yes.
part of the downtown
Yes.
resource team visit. So
It's not a normal,
it's not a long meeting, that's all I'm saying.
but yeah, for getting together, let's lock in some time for setting the agenda meeting that make sure that Chloe's aware of that too. Okay, moving on to items for discussion and possible action. Number 1, approval of meeting minutes from December 5th. If you look at pages 4 and 5 in your packet. Our December meeting minutes. Take a quick moment to review if you haven't. Otherwise, I will entertain a motion.
I'll move for approval.
Motion by Brian. Second by Hannah. Any edits? Any other conversation, discussion? Okay, if not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Opposed?
Aye.
Okay. Item number 2, approval of 2024 work plan and memorandum of understanding between the Downtown Business Improvement District, the Stevens Point Alliance, City of Stevens Point, and Stevens Point Area Convention and Visitors Bureau. Chris, can you give a quick update on this ahead of the possible action?
Yep, so back in the November Stevens Point Alliance meeting, the original draft was shared with the Stevens Point Alliance full membership, requesting feedback before the December meeting so we could bring this back for final approval. We did receive some comments from Stevens Point Alliance members following the December meeting. That prior to that, the board of directors did discuss and felt that they were comfortable with the document as drafted. However, some of the recommendations that were brought forward were minor and clarifying, so a few of them were accepted and a quick change. So just quickly to run over some of those changes that had happened between then and now. What was added in was the downtown enhancement fund, so that way we're clearly denoting how that fund is being utilized, why. There's a lot of potential good that can come from that fund. There's also a lot of potential harm for community relationships if that fund was mishandled, so I want to make sure that that information is clear. There were a few requests to remove the Convention and Visitors Bureau from the responsible entity column. We still, my opinion, that they are still an integral partner. They are housing Chloe's position, and they will continue to support downtown visitorship. So it would be my recommendation to continue to include them as a partner and continue to communicate with Director Frisch about how that might change over the next few months, as they also hired on a new staff person. Their new marketing director should have started today as well.
She starts next week, I think.
Okay, she'll be starting soon. The other update to be seen is the removing the very specific location of reporting and updating for this document. It was listed as Midstate Technical College, but we just want that location to be in a public space. Not at City Hall. Folks are able to come and go as they please. So following the request for edits from the Stevens Point Alliance membership, it seemed pretty clear that there had not been enough communication between the Stevens Point Alliance Board of Directors and the membership about submitting comments and discussing those ahead of time, to make sure that there's a clear update process. It took us a long time to put this annual work plan and memorandum of understanding together, and in order for you all to work effectively and Stevens Point Alliance to work effectively and for us to work together, just my opinion, taking a full year to go through that process is not efficient and could lead to a lot of hangups. And so it's my recommendation also, following whatever the fate of this is, I would recommend approval of the current document as posted. Is a document that we anticipate changing year over year, that the current slate of officers meet with the incoming Stevens Point Alliance Board of Directors at least quarterly, to ensure that the direction of both organizations is going the same way, just ensuring that each organization is taking the responsibilities that it has the capacity to.
Chloe, do you get a chance to review this document?
Yeah, I read it a little bit before this.
Very good. For bid board,
Any comments related to that? Any concerns for the changes that were made since we approved this last?
I don't think the changes were overly substantial. I'm comfortable with the minor changes that were made, and so I would move we approve the plan as presented.
Okay.
We can always change this, right? Like it's a flowing document.
Every year
that
it gets
can-
reviewed and changed.
It's a work plan, so
So
it's
as we
manual.
go forward, we can,
Yeah, absolutely.
we can always make
I
it.
imagine the first one, you don't know until you get in,
Yeah.
start mixing things in, and then you're gonna know a year from now, but
It's a
And I
great
would
starting
imagine
place.
that all of us are mature people and, you know, can come to a conclusion of some sort if there's disagreements. Point, so I second that motion.
okay, so we have a motion from Christensen, a second from Hannah. And I should say, this would be for us to accept it and sign it. It's up to the other groups at that point. We don't have control over that, but you know, if we're gonna lead, we have to make decisions. So that's the motion on the table. Is there any other discussion on this matter? Okay,
So,
Go ahead.
since most of the changes were coming from the executive committee and the membership of SPA, do we have some assurance that they're gonna sign?
Yeah, I had communicated with Nikki Kaiser, who's the current president,
Mhm.
about the changes that were recommended. And she has no concerns with the changes that were accepted.
Great.
okay, any other discussion? Hearing or seeing none, all those in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, that carries and we will sign it from our end. Item number 3, Downtown Stevens Point Survey, Mr. Christensen and Chris. Mark, what do you got for us?
This was basically based on surveys. One nice thing about having the access to the Main Street people, then we don't start things from scratch. So we did have a template that we were able to start from. We had some discussions. Chris did a nice job, I think, incorporating some of the suggested changes. We came up with a draft. Aaron Welty came back and had a couple other minor things that she suggested, and Chris has made some modifications utilizing those, but the survey, I think, will give us some valuable information hopefully, and allow us to have actual information to base future decisions on.
So the survey that's included in your packets is not the most up-to-date copy because Aaron Welty did provide feedback
Right.
earlier today. And I made those changes immediately, so we had some time to at least share what those changes were. So the few points of clarification from Aaron, we did include a change to the intro question to inform folks that they're both a business owner and a property owner, that you will be asked questions about both of those based on the design of the survey.
6 are the same.
What's that?
And here, question 3 and question 6 are the same.
Yeah, so we will make sure that.
One's the property and one's the business.
So there is some logic behind the survey, so if you answer as a business owner or a property owner, it'll shoot you to a section.
Okay.
So it'll have you skip over certain sections.
Right.
So you'll see some duplication in those. But we wanna make sure that if someone were to answer that they are a property owner, that they get asked if they're also a business owner, so they get shuttled down. And if they're a business owner and respond that way first, then they also give a chance to answer the property owner question if they need to. So we did change a few of those business owner questions. Namely, if the business owner either owns the property that they are operating their business out of, or if they own a different property, or if they don't own it. So that way we can clarify if they're leasing their business property, like where they do their business, versus owning it. We did modify question 13 regarding changes in full-time staff equivalents. So it reads as full-time staff equivalents, how many people they're hiring, both in the last year and the past 3 years, just to take some note of COVID and just the previous year. Some of the answer selections for the question, what would attract you to downtown Stevens Point or help you stay or make you stay longer? Revise some of those to ask for more clarification on types of restaurants, quality of restaurants, just quantity of restaurants in general. We added a visit frequency question, so how much the general public or anyone taking the survey does actually visit downtown outside of work. And then we also asked, Aaron encouraged us to include a question asking about how long folks have been residents for in Stevens Point. And that has been pretty indicative of the recommended changes, has provided some more background information for those reviewing the survey results on who's making what recommendations for the downtown and what might be more compelling changes for them.
I thought it was interesting that she said that in some communities, it's been very helpful information having, there was a difference in how they responded, whether depending on how long they've been residents of the city. And so she did suggest, she said, and not always, but in some places it was very, very indicative and very, very beneficial. So she did encourage us to include that as well. That's why it's nice having access to somebody who's done this a number of times, because obviously it's our first kick at the cat, so.
One quick question, which I think is important if we understand scope for 25, is a half mile, is that pretty typical as far as a distance for a district? So downtown, is it a half mile, quarter mile to include impact for a district?
Half mile was incorporated because that's generally the comfortable walking distance from the location.
So that's kind of the measure, okay.
Other folks or I guess other communities, as they're evaluating accessibility, they're also changing that to be within the 10-minute walk, 10-minute bus line, 10-minute drive, depending on how you want to measure accessibility to downtown. But typically include that for, is downtown within walking distance? Is it somewhere close to you to get to?
I was thinking like in terms of if a grocer, like what are the metrics they use in terms of population for the radius of the downtown? But if a half mile is kind of standard, then it's good. Any other feedback, thoughts for this? I'm assuming we're taking an action on the work you've done and pushing this forward with the changes that you've made, or do we need to bring this back?
We don't need to bring this back at all. So this is just here if there's any other quick directives, because we do need to send this out post haste.
When are we gonna have a day where you cut it off? Like when will we have responses?
1 week before the visit.
Meeting? Okay, so not like in 3
The
weeks.
last week of January, yeah. And that's enough time for a survey to be out. Well,
Okay.
End of the month, basically.
All the questions pretty much made sense to me. But question 19, why did we limit to just fire, police, utilities, waste management?
So, great question. It's not just limited to that. That's why we're kind of coming into this
Okay.
conversation.
Right.
Why I want to have this here. If there's additional either like answer choices that you felt were necessary, if we needed to focus any other questions towards the general residents, business owners, or property owners. Now's the time to point those out. So if there's anything that you'd like to recommend adding.
Well, nothing against relation to a member of the board, but permitting and inspection. Having just been through that, which was a generally positive experience.
So would you call that the city? Or permits and inspection?
Yeah,
It's generally a public service, so we
Yeah.
use it there.
I put that all under ease of doing business in town, but yeah, I would specifically look for, permitting and inspection.
What about under 19, snow removal, street cleaning?
Yeah,
and-
services.
Yeah, and snow removal in the past has been an issue here and there,
Yep.
so.
Not this year or last year.
Well, not this
Not
year.
this year,
Yeah,
yeah.
not
Thank
last
you,
year.
Olivia.
And not this year. And street
Been
sweeping too,
awesome.
street cleaning.
Sure.
Yeah.
I know they had a regular schedule, but sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah, so
Sounds good.
inspections and streets. That's
So I got 3 things to add on question 19, permitting, inspection, street cleaning, and snow removal. Permitting, inspection, street cleaning, and snow removal.
Yeah.
a good idea, Brian.
Parking enforcement? Just kidding. Alright,
Are you?
Well, parking,
I mean,
I know it's a favorite punching bag.
I'll leave that under law enforcement.
Okay, yeah, fair enough.
Well, is it protection?
That's what they're implicated, so.
with, any other discussion? Any other ideas or additions?
Can I make a comment on this one?
Generally, we don't have public comment outside of the beginning of the meeting. Sorry,
Okay, it would help the survey.
sorry that we're sticking to our agenda. Any other comments?
I guess 20 does have parking.
I didn't exclude it. Okay, I will entertain a motion if there is one to move forward with this.
I make a motion to move forward with this
Motion by Rosalind, is there a second?
With changes.
Second by
with the
Christensen.
changes, yes.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Say aye.
All right.
Hi.
Any opposed? That carries too. And that has exhausted the agenda, so we are adjourned.
A video of this meeting is available for viewing on the city's website, stevenspoint.com/videos.